Good morning, Dominica. Good morning, Eastern Caribbean. Welcome, 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 welcome. Welcome to another special Creole Heartbeat program. And I'm Prince Wadix, and I'm really excited to be part of this extravaganza this morning. And it gives me great pleasure to welcome everyone tuned into the big station, Q95 FM. And today, it's going to be on the other side where the student will be interviewing the teacher. Today we are proud to have, as a matter of fact, with my Ghanaian friend. Good morning to you, Mafa. How are you?
Hello, good morning. I'm good. How are you?
And everything is under control?
Very well, thank you.
Okay, I hope you enjoy what you're going to be hearing today. You're going to be learning all about the World Creole Music Festival.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
And Mafa is a student and at the All Saints University, and someone are actually training in broadcasting in Dominica. So this morning we are going to be saying a special tribute to Mr. Sheridan Gregoire, a proud student of the Dominica Grammar School. Sheridan Gregoire was an ardent sportsman and was the house captain of Skinner football and cricket teams. He was also the vice captain in athletics. He would later represent the DGS in first division cricket and football. After departing the DGS in 1966, he worked as a land surveyor for 1 year, a skill which took him to the Bahamas, where he was employed for 2 years prior to his studies at the University of the West Indies. A young and determined Gregoire found the situation extremely tough financially and worked in the USA during the summer vacations to pay his tuition throughout the University of the West Indies days. He graduated from the University of the West Indies with a degree in management in 1972, and later that year joined by Trinity Company. Mr. Gregoire also had a short stint as a teacher at the St. Mary's Academy and taught commerce to fifth form and economics to the combined sixth forms of the various high schools. Sheridan Gregoire's innovative and visionary characteristics quickly blossomed into an astute entrepreneur, and in 1977 created history with the formation of a garment factory which produced BTI jeans and employed 125 people. He also ran 2 stores and a supermarket and became the president of the DAIC. Sheridan Gregoire was extremely passionate about the music, the dance, theater, and the cultural industries in Dominica, and in 1978 headed the historic National Trade Show at the St. Martin's School grounds, which lasted for 2 weeks. I had the distinguished pleasure of teaming up with Mr. Gregoire at his Samantri restaurant in the heart of the city, which now houses courts, where cultural history was created. Together we made magic alongside Waddy Coley and the legendary Franklin Moses, who hosted the famous Dance Party DA. It was the first time that Dominican youth were given the opportunity to showcase their dancing skills live on national television. We also had a massive Creole dance party session all weekend long and carnival fetes alongside the RSB band at the Salmon Tree during the 1980s. Like this was not enough, we once again teamed up and created the Creole Dance Party at the Zone in Kingsfield that same decade. So it was no surprise when the idea came up with the festival. Sheridan Gregoire contacted me to be part of this team, so it gives me great pleasure on behalf of Creole Heartbeat to welcome one who I owe a tremendous debt of gratitude to, one who schooled me in management and had the confidence in my abilities to afford me the opportunity to understudy the late Eddie Toulon as executive director of WCMF in 1996. Welcome, Mr. G. Good morning to you, sir.
Morning, Wadix. How are you doing?
Okay, good? How are you, my friend?
Well, I'm doing all right. And what about you?
It appears that you're getting younger by the second.
Please don't say that. Please don't say that.
I want to actually really invite you this morning to draw back a little as we kind of position ourselves leading up to the World Creole Music Festival. But quite a bit of people who were possibly not even on this earth when you created or when you headed that special St. Martin school activity, the trade show, and even the dance party Dominica at the Salmon Tree, where Courts is now located. Before we delve into the World Creole Music Festival, can you just bring us up to date with what would these two activities and what how important were they to Dominica?
Yes, the National Trade Show at the St. Martin School was really spearheaded by Norris Prevost and myself. I was the chairman, president of the Dominican Garment Manufacturers Association, and we decided that we were going to put on this trade show for 2 weeks at the St. Martin School. I mean, there was culture, there was, as a matter of fact, I think that is where Ophelia Olivache made her debut, right, at that St. Martin School. I remember that very clearly. But there were a lot of exhibits. I mean, and all day long and all evening long. I mean, and people were coming in and viewing all the exhibits nationwide. There was agriculture, there were crafts, there was art, there was manufacturing, there was everything right there. And in the night time, there was a festive events, music and culture and presentations and whatnot. That, in fact, made a very big impression, and it really put a lot of local manufacturers on the market because they had not been exposed before. Just some of their products had not been exposed before, and now they got that exposure. So I think it served Dominica very, very well.
In terms of the dance party Dominica, bringing Dominica's youth live on television, what an innovation this was at your facility where Courts is now presently located. Tell us about this one.
Right. That was all the way back there then. I mean, Dennis Joseph was involved with us in that as well, and Franklin
Yes,
Moses and
yes.
Steve Dangleben, and there's a whole lot of people who were involved in that. Um, you know, it really created a stage for a lot of these young people to display their talents. And it was sort of a meeting place. I remember the chap who won, the first one was a police officer. I
Yeah.
think he's somewhere in the United States now. I don't, I forget his name now, but I mean, he was really very good. He dressed up like half woman and half man, and he was on stage performing, and it was really a terrific performance. And really, it exposed a lot of these young people's skills and dancing talents. I mean, it was really a gathering place for them to meet and have fun, have really nice, clean, decent fun. So I think it worked very well.
Absolutely. But you did something I can't. I'm not sure how many of our Dominicans would remember the BTI gins, the By Trini. I remember located in the heart of the city, but then you could get affordable gins, affordable quality gins at a decent price. How was that venture approached and the brainstorm behind the vision behind this one, and how was that particular project?
That when I got back to Dominica from UWI, I mean, as a matter of fact, when I just before I left UWI, Norris Prevost was there. He was doing a master's degree in agriculture. He graduated a year before me, and when I came down, Norris Prevost said to me, "You know something? I've teamed up with Yusuf Nixon at By Trini. It was just a little store in Roseau, but very enterprising. And he told me, listen, you should team up with us." So I said, okay. I said I teamed up with them. And then I realized, of course, that I mean, the store was doing very well selling clothes. Yusuf Nixon was a tremendous entrepreneur. This chap didn't really take much schooling, but he was just a tremendous businessman. He started off with a suitcase selling fabric and so on, just like many of the Lebanese people did in those days. And he did very well. And so this store became very, very popular. I'll tell you who people like who worked there. People like Lennox Linton worked there. People
Wow.
like, oh yeah, I mean, a whole set of people. Tom, the police officer who died, I mean, he worked there. Thomas Mitchell worked there. Ken Ken worked there. I mean, there was Linton. He worked there. So a whole sort of a lot of people worked there. But then I realized that it wasn't enough just to be selling garments, bringing in garments and selling. So I figured then, well, why not just let's do a garment factory? So in fact, I spoke with Nixon and Norris, and then we decided, okay, let's go for it. And so I went ahead and I got involved with George Morrow, who was a manufacturer himself, doing some garments on Steve Street at his home. And we decided, okay, so let's get together and put down a factory on Bath Road. So we did that, and I traveled to New York and to San Juan and to Florida to buy the fabrics. And then George did the production. He designed the patterns. He did the cutting. He did the production management. And so we got this going, and I actually went through to all of the islands in the Caribbean, and I met with the lead stars from Jamaica all the way down to Guyana, including Guadeloupe, Martinique, Trinidad, Barbados, and Lucia, all of the islands. I met with the purchasing agent in each of those stores, and I got them to give me some space on their shelf. So we
Wow.
had those jeans on the shelf of all the lead stores. We had one in each of the islands represented us. So our garments were very well represented on the shelves in leading stores up in the Caribbean. And so, really, I mean, so we did a lot on the local market. We had a number of models who were modeling the jeans and so on. And we used to take a double page, send a page in the Chronicle, and put it out. So it became quite popular. As a matter of fact, Gabriel Christian, I think, tells me he has one of those jeans up to now. In fact, they fared very well. So
The,
it
the
was,
reason I brought this up, Mr. G, is because those days manufacturing was a big thing, and I recalled. I mean, Dominicans came from all walks of life, from all over Dominican, came down to purchase those jeans. So that's the level we were at that particular time.
yes, that's right. As a matter of fact, the reason we closed the gyms because we went through a hurricane in 1979, and the place got destroyed. We rebuilt and restarted again. But then in 1980, Eugenia Childs came into office, and she decided that I guess she saw me as enemy number one, maybe. I don't know. And she decided she was going to stop terminate the concessions that we had from Patrick John. So we had a fiscal incentive from the Patrick John regime. As a matter of fact, and Patrick John assisted us with that national trade show, and he made a speech there as well. So kudos to Patrick John for that, for recognizing and supporting us. So Eugenia took away our concessions, and we closed because without those concessions, we could not be competitive with people like Jumans and all these other people making jeans in the Caribbean. So I mean, we tried our best for a few months to survive, but then it couldn't last, so we eventually shut it down.
Let's now move into the WCMF. You were afforded the responsibility CEO of the National Development Corporation. For those who may not know the NDC, then give us a brief history of what was the NDC and your role at the NDC.
All right. Well, NDC is the National Development Corporation. It really was in charge of promoting industry and tourism in Dominica and investments. Since I left there, I mean, the new regime, new government took over. They split up the NDC to the Discover Dominica Authority and Invest Dominica Authority. But when I was there, they were under one umbrella. And so we
Mhm.
had different departments. And so we had people like Sharon Pascal in charge of the tourism department. So was Esprit was one way, Ronald Lander was another way, Colin Piper was a Gretel Finger. So we had different people representing different departments. And the NDC produced a lot of people who are very credible today and who left and went and are holding decent jobs all over the place. In fact, I would say that whatever training they got, it served them very well. But I mean, we were responsible for attracting investments and tourism, and then a number of projects that we had already built up and were on the drawing board. And so the Creole Festival is one of these projects that came up. And then we decided to execute that. And so when you're ready, we'll talk about that.
Yes, as a matter of fact, I'm ready now. Where and how this idea came about, and we'll delve into the vision after. But tell us about where this idea came from and how you got involved, the NDC got involved.
All right. Well, first of all, The Creole Music Festival started off under the UWP government. Edison James was prime minister, Julius Timothy was finance minister, and Norris Prevost was tourism minister. And really, I must say kudos to Prime Minister Edison James for embracing the idea of the festival very enthusiastically. In fact, um, how it all started is that I accompanied Minister Julius Timothy to a CDB meeting in Barbados. While we were there, it was Barbados Crop Over Festival. And Mr. Timothy said to me, I would like to have a festival like this in Dominica. I said, okay, I will work on it when I get back. So when I got back, we set up the Dominica Festivals Commission as a department of the General Manager, CEO's office. And I was the chairman of the DFC. I formed the first broad think tank committee. I invited a number of people, quite a few people, in fact, to sit on met a few times for brainstorming. And out of this, the World Federation of Creole Cultures was registered later on by Sobers Esprit and Gordon Henderson on behalf of the DFC. And its early symposium, in fact, was funded by the French mission in St. Lucia. But the first think tank committee comprised of myself as the CEO of the NDC, chairman of the DFC, then there's people like Mark Marie, Steve Hyacinth, Oliver St. John, Reggie Buck, yourself, Wadix, Fagan, Dennis Joseph, Kelly the Ghost Williams, Sobus Esprit, Ronald Lander, Michael Fadell, Sharon Pascal, Gretchen Fingal, Jeffrey Brisbane, Oliver St. John, and a host of other people who I may have forgotten the names now, but there were a lot of people involved in the brainstorming,
Jamala Fountain and
right?
Stein Henry, also Fred Nicholas
That's
was also
correct.
part of the original team.
That's
Gregory
correct.
Rabes also was part of the original.
Right. So
Mhm.
there were quite a few people who contributed to the ideas and, they made the submissions and so on. So, but out of all of this now, rising all of all those meetings, I got the NDC heads of department to contribute to a proposal for the festival. In other words, to look at it from the tourism standpoint to see how tourism was going to benefit, how industry was going to benefit, how culture was going to benefit, and so on. And so then they made submissions to me. I edited those submissions, and then I asked Sobers Esprit to write the final cabinet paper on the DFC and the WCMF, which I presented to the cabinet of Mr. Edison James. The cabinet approved the concept, and Finance Minister Julius Timothy promised to give us, you remember what he promised to give us 400,000 to run the
Yes.
festival, but we
Mhm.
only got 250,000 of
Yeah.
that amount to run the first festival, so we kind of short of cash.
But very critical was that initial vision for the World Creole Music Festival, and you needed manpower. You needed because almost half, you got almost half of the budget. How were you able to navigate to really bring this to fruition in the way it actually ended up the first edition and several editions after with half of your budget cut?
Well, the problem is, you see, at that time, you see this thing called Kudme.
Yeah.
Right, because a lot of people came on board. For example, you found, okay, I'll tell you what. When we established DFC, then we went on the market and I employed Eddie Toulon
Yeah.
as the executive director of the DFC to manage the first World Creole Music Festival. Gordon Henderson was asked to serve as the international promoter for the festival. Oliver St. John was asked to manage the venue. Reggie Burke was asked to run the bars, Steve Hyacinth to manage the stage, and yourself, Wadix, and Eddie were to manage the overall production of
Yeah.
the festival.
Yeah.
And I reported directly to Honorable Julius Timothy and Norris Prevost. No PSs stood between us. But the fact of the matter is, we were able to do this. Remember, we did not have any venue with a set perimeter.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Oliver St. John, for example, had to always create a perimeter for the venue when we started very humbly at the back of the old grammar school.
How important was Mr. Julius Timothy to this project, the genesis of this project?
I would say Julius Timothy was pivotal because he in Barbados is the one who said to me, let's do something like the Crop Over Festival. Let's have something in Dominica. And I took it from there. I mean, there were one or two people who made some suggestions before my time at the NDC about things that they want to have, but that never bore fruit. So when Julius Timothy asked me to do this, I decided. And then you know what? I already had a background in these things there. I mean, I worked with you in Wadi Koli and so on. Before that, we did several things. So I had a vested interest in that. So I decided to put together a team and we brainstorm and then got this thing going. But I mean, we were short of money. So we had to really find ways and means because people were not paid, you know. People were not paid. I mean, everybody was doing this thing voluntarily. Oliver St. John and Steve Hyacinth and Reggie Burke and all these people, voluntary. So, I mean, we were able to cut a lot of corners.
Leroy Waddix Charles, voluntary also.
Leroy Waddick Styles was voluntary. I mean, so we were able to cut corners and use the budget that we have and to make do. And that is how we managed to survive. In fact, when Ronald landed and we looked at our first budget, we decided that we were not going to be able to make a profit in the first show because it's exploratory. And so, but you know what? We broke even.
Yeah.
We actually broke even. We did not make a profit, but we did not make a loss. We broke even. And in fact, our audited accounts will show that because every year we had audited accounts for the festival when I was there. So we know we have a record of what profit was made or not made in those years that we had this festival. I'm hoping that they still prepare audited accounts so they can see exactly the path this thing is following and where the money is going to, the money that is spent and money that is coming in. So I mean, certainly, I believe the festival is in Marva Williams' hand now. It's in good hands, and I believe she means well and she's quite capable, and I wish her all the best.
But Mr. G, as we look back in terms of the support from the French, because initially it was carried to be a Kadas Zouk Festival, and then later through various ideas it became the World Creole Music Festival with an emphasis on Franco Creole. But even when we actually decided to actually host the event in November or October, end of October, there were lots of challenges. Quite a bit of important people in Dominica felt we were going to kill the culture of Dominica, to put it at that particular time.
Well, yes, I mean, some people said it was a bastardization of the culture. Some people said it was fit and more fit for the boys, but they didn't really understand that we had done the work. You see, the various departments of the NDC had done the work. They looked at the tourism angle because we realized at that time of year, hardly anybody came to Dominica for the independence celebrations. People came to Dominica for Christmas and for Carnival.
Yeah.
They did not come down for the independence. So we figured if we did this there, it would bring a lot more people to participate in the independence activities. And that is exactly what happened. So you'll find that if you go back and look at the records from the time we started, you'll find that in that first year and from subsequent years after that, because of the festival, the visitor arrivals in that period is much higher than it used to be in the past. So that is one of the things. So it means that all the hotels got filled, the taxi operators were doing well, merchandise was being sold, vendors, we provided for the vendors made a living. So in actual fact, and then of course, government collected the departure taxes.
Yeah.
So in fact, it was a net revenue generating machine for the government.
Gordon Henderson was the overseas coordinator, and he was very instrumental in bringing the French press, or the press of RFO in particular, and also WLIB, New York based. Those two entities really made a major difference in evangelizing that initial edition of the World Creole Music Festival.
Yes, Gordon Anderson did a tremendous job. I mean, You know, he brought in RFO and WLIB and all his people there. And in fact, RFO had a very long reach, reach all
Yeah.
the Creole speaking countries. I mean, Mauritius, Seychelles, all the islands there. And in fact, all of the programs that RFO and RFO came down on their own free will, you know, they came down and paid their
Yes.
own expenses,
It's important to note that they came down free.
free of
All we
charge.
had to do was to house them.
That's correct.
Mhm.
And they produced all this thing, and then all this film was shown. It was shown on all of these various stations throughout their networks. And so this thing was seen in Mauritius, in the Seychelles, in all these islands, in Guadeloupe, everywhere. So, I mean, we got a tremendous amount of publicity from RFO. And I think it might be a bit regrettable that I think RFO is no longer involved in the festival, but I wish they would reconsider and bring RFO back into the festival.
Well, there was some arrangement with RFO is government owned and RCI privately owned,
Hmm.
and there was some confrontation with RCI who didn't want RFO to be part of it if they had to be part of it. So there was some confrontation, and RFO was left out. But even moving forward, Mr. G, the lineup. I mean, the lineup basically Kadas Slipso, the foundation. And if we recall the iconic figure at the center of that particular flyer the first year, because we themed everything, was Gordon Anderson to give an indication how important our Kadas Lipso was and also our Creole culture, Mr. G.
Yes, that's very true. Very, very true. In fact, yes, Gordon Anderson was the iconic figure in the middle of the promotional material. And in fact, the Creole music formed a substantial part of the lineup. I mean, you yourself would know the kind of lineup that we had for the first 2 or 3 years of Addicts because you participated in putting together some of that lineup. I mean, and Creole music was very, very well represented there. I mean, the Zouk and so on was there. So because we realized that the French were very, very critical in terms of their presence there at the festival. I mean, look, there are a million people out there, and if these people decide to come into the festival, this is it. So the way we promoted this festival, say music anew, it really was not just the music of Dominicans, it was the music of the French people as well, of all the Creole speaking countries in the world. That is how,
The first edition had Magnum Band from Haiti,
right,
Roughneck from Martinique, Taxi Creole from Martinique, Ophelia, Midnight Groovers, Dominica. We also had WCK First Serenade, Nelly Star, Zouk Machine from Guadeloupe, Tabou Combo from Haiti, Funky Vincent. And it was a difference because it was the first time Dominica saw a production at that particular level. There was some skepticism the first night, Mr. J, if you recall,
right,
and where the gate receipts was not as expected.
right.
But then the two other nights on that first edition, because there was the fireworks, we had the fireworks, and then there was a light illuminating all over the capital city, which was the first time this was actually going on in Dominica. So from that, people felt something big was taking place at the Dominica Grammar School grounds.
Yes, when people realized that something really was happening there, something really big was going on there, they came out on this first, the second, and the third nights. Because in fact, it was a huge thing because I mean, the French people recognized what we were doing. They certainly recognized it and they supported it. And I have to say that Gordon did a very good job in promoting it to them and bringing them on board. So, in fact, Dominicans really reacted to this from the second night. When they
Yes.
realized that something substantial was on there, they came in the second night and the third night. But then, as you say, the lineup was very attractive to the French
Because
people.
very importantly, and I continue to lament on that, the music and new theme was always inclusive of the Franco Creole, where it was our music, held in Dominica, but it was our music. The language was also very, very important. As a matter of fact, I recall that we looked at a holistic Creole product and Dominica as the Creole capital. And very instrumental was the Federation of Creole Cultures. Tell us about that.
Yes, that was the vision to make Dominica the headquarters of the Creole world, the Creole capital. And in fact, we did a couple of symposiums, and we did, in fact, even had an awards ceremony. Um, when the French people came on board with us, in fact, the French mission in Martinique funded the first symposium. And we had professors from Martinique, from Africa, from St. Lucia, talking about the Creole language and the Creole way and the Creole cuisine and so on. So in fact, the whole idea behind setting up the World Federation of Creole Cultures was that was the instrument that was going to propel the World Creole Music Festival into the world stage and to really establish Dominica as the Creole capital of the world. And so it is unfortunate that this was not pursued, but I mean, it is not too late. It can still be pursued again. I mean, because I don't think the Creole Festival is going anywhere. It's going to be here to stay. And I think the powers that be should take every advice that they can and look at every angle they can to make this thing really what it really was intended to become. In fact, the idea was to have a world tour, World Creole Music Festival World Tour. And one of the things that we did, Wadix, if you remember earlier, Clock, we tried to establish the Creole Festival as a launching pad for Creole music. And so the idea was that all the agents who represent Creole bands would recognize the World Creole Music Festival as a platform, the launching pad for the bands, and that they would, in fact, we would encourage them to provide their services, their bands free of charge to the festival. That is what our vision was. And so the idea of having a World Creole Music Award ceremony was to be able to give awards to all of those different leading bands and leading performers in the Creole music world. And so this is where we left off.
Called the Creole capital of the world.
Thank you very much, beautiful Martha from Ghana. We'll come back to you in a while. But Mr. G, just before we were cut off, I'm not sure why, we were on the federation and how important this federation was to the World Creole Music Festival and the closeness of networking the other Creole countries to the vision of the World Creole Music Festival.
Well, yes. I mean, in fact, that is what we established that, because through the World Federation of Creole Cultures and through the symposiums that we were having, we brought all these people together in Dominica. And we had these symposiums. We talked about the language, we talked about the culture, we talked about the cuisine, we talked about the dress, all of that, the lifestyle, the Creole gam, as it were, the Creole attitude, the Creole posture. In other words, we discussed all of that, and we had these professors, and they were very enthusiastic about this. So, in fact, we brought all these players together around the concept of the World Federation of Creole Cultures, located headquartered in Dominica.
We also introduced the awards, which was very instrumental, the Creole Awards. But
Right.
you had a particular vision of how big this could get. And in one of our conversations, you keep telling me about you want this to be one day as big as the BET Awards.
That's correct. That's correct. Because there's no reason why it cannot be. Because you have these Creole bands all over the world. I mean, you have from Africa, you have from everywhere, and there's no reason why. And these bands were creating top class music, top class Creole music, and there's no reason why you could not have an award, a World Creole Music Awards ceremony, awards event that was going to be just as big as any of those there, as the Latin Music Awards or the whatever it is. To me, it was just his idea that his time had come. And I mean, really, it is just regrettable that it was not pursued. But I mean, think about it today. If you had a Creole Music Awards show, and all these top bands, all these top performers, they could come to Dominica and receive awards on stage and put on a big show. I mean, think about it. So I mean, really and truly, I think we missed the boat with that one, but it's not too late. It's never too late.
During their period, the tenure, what were some of the highlights in your mind which really sticks out?
I would say ah, that's a tough one. I mean, the fact, first of all, the fact that Edison James
Yeah.
enthusiastically embraced the idea. He was prime minister, and he very enthusiastically embraced the idea. Julius Timothy and I started to talk about this thing, but Edison James was the head of the cabinet, and he embraced it and he gave it his blessings right away. And to me, that was very encouraging, right? But I think the highlight of that was really, to me, the way people came together. A lot of different people, a lot of different ideas just came together and decided, you know what, getting paid nothing, but let's just put our minds together, put our hearts together, put our efforts into it to make this thing work. I mean, you will recall Steve Hyacinth managing the stage,
Yeah.
and Oliver St. John, when when we went. First of all, at the back of the grammar school, there's a small space. There's no perimeter. He had to create a perimeter. When we went to the Pottersville Savannah, there was no perimeter there. We had just about 11 or 12 days in which to create a perimeter. And Oliver St. John used containers. He
Yeah.
found a way to find containers to create a perimeter, and nobody thought it was going to be possible to get done. So the fact that the people like that put their heart and soul into it, and people like yourself and Eddie and so on, they put your heart and soul into putting the program together, getting all the bands and so on. To me, these were the highlights of the whole event.
By the way, the lines are now open. It's now 28 minutes after 11 o'clock. This is Creole Heartbeat, and we are with the initial boss, the man at the helm of the World Creole Music Festival from inception, Mr. Sheridan Gregoire. And he's just kind of reminiscing on some of the highlights, the challenges of the World Creole Music Festival, kind of a post mortem as we look back 25 years. You were thinking major sponsorship, possible privatization, but possibly this. Okay, we have our first caller. Good morning to you, Creole Heartbeat, for Mr. Gregoire.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Morning, formally. Good morning, Mr. Gregoire.
Morning.
How are you, my dear?
Let me tell Mr. Gregoire, kudos to him. I never knew he did all that work in this country before he left. Because the first one was the trade show,
Yes.
and that trade show I'd enjoy every afternoon, every day. I used to be there, watching nice things, all type of things. And I'm sorry, I don't think that can come back to Dominica because this Dominica is not the Dominica we have had right now. And the World Creole Music Festival is another one of it. Number one, we had nobody to sit in the tickets to share thousands of tickets before tickets go on sale. So at that time, we could see a little profit and Dominica could go on. Things would go through. I think they had, especially you had it, I think you used to go out of the country
Yes, I
to
did.
Guadeloupe and Martinique to advertise that World Creole Music Festival. All you did a good show. I can remember the one, Toulon,
Eddie Toulon, the late Eddie Toulon.
Eddie Toulon. I can remember that day well when he walked in casualty, I was working in casualty.
Wow.
This young man who walked in casualty, I helped him to go to his bed in casualty. And when I heard in maybe 10 minutes or that he was gone,
Wow.
it hit me hard. Because I was the one who brought him to his bed. It hit me. I could not believe that. But anyway, all you did a lot of good things. What are you talking about? It was Dominica was swinging at that time. Dominica was smiling at that time. Dominica was not in misery as it is right now. thanks for what you all did, but it's a pity. I don't think it can come back again. Unless we can try something when this administration just get out of there. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, caller. Good morning, and may God bless you. More calls coming from Mr. G. This is Creole Heartbeat. Good morning to you.
Good morning, good morning. This is Mali number 1007 Boom, better known as the famous wrestler Red Cat. First of all, I want to say a pleasant good morning to Ambassador Prince Charming Wabi. Right?
Good morning to you, my
You
dear.
have any guest or you have any lady with you on board?
Yes, I have someone from Ghana in Africa with me. I'm kind of training her.
Two people.
One, I have one. Well, one on the console who works at QFM, and the other one is Mafa from Ghana, from the African continent.
Okay. I just want to say a pleasant good morning to the ladies. I wish them all the best and God guidance. Least but not last, I want to say a pleasant good morning with tears in my eyes, trembling, the Honorable and the Honorable Sir Sheridan Gregor, better known as Mr. G. Mr. G, when I hear Prince Charming, Ambassador Wadix talk about you, I bawl, I cry like a baby that's just born. My brother, you did a lot of things for your country and your people. I say, look to you. I bow to you. I kneel to you, my brother, and take a bow for that. When they had Trini with the Wranglers, right? I was wrong. I was alive. Right? Mr. G is my very good friend, a man of dignity, a man of potential, a very honest man, a hard-working, dedicated man to his country and his people. Give him his flowers when he alive, not when you dead, for people to come and cry crocodile tears. Trini used to have this doggery, wrangler. Imagine, I used to buy key tennis shoe by Trini, right? And then don't ask for Zaman tree. Oh, Milado. Every weekend, me and my sister Lazarine, a young of us, used to be in Zaman tree, drinking, enjoying. And what I used to drink? Guinness. Why? Mr. G, to tell you the truth, my brother, you have done a lot. As for the World Creole Festival, we have some people in the World Creole Festival. They done nothing. You was the one and others who bring up World Creole Festival and so many other things I could say to you. From my heart, within my lips, I crying, I shivering when Wadix talk about you. My brother, you deserve one of the highest award in Dominica. But you know they wouldn't give it to you. Your reward is in heaven with your mighty Father. Hallelujah. Waiting for you, my brother. Keep up the good work. May God bless you with all what you're doing. And I put you and Wadix on my list. The Honorable and the Honorable Sir Ambassador Wadix and Mr. Sheridan Gregor. I'm asking the Almighty Father to put more money in your pocket to help the hungry, the poor, the needed, and more food on your table. So when the food is on your table, you will help people. My brother, this is for you and Wadix and all you do.
Thank you very much, Valid. And Mr. G, we were on the area that one of your dreams and visions was to possibly seek, or more. The calls are coming in. The calls are coming in fast and furious. Let's take the calls. Good morning to you from Mr. G. Good morning. There seems to be an echo. I'm not sure. Okay, okay, all right, no problem. There seems to be a slight echo. Just call off this one. Okay, but Mr. G, one of your dreams was to take this call. Let's take the call. Good morning to you, Creole Heartbeat. Good morning to you from Mr. G. Okay, let's take it. Good morning. Okay, all right. One of your dreams, Mr. G, was to see how you could alleviate the financial burden on the government at the time and look for external funding. We had several partners. Okay, more calls coming in from Mr. G. Just hold the thought, but we were talking about external funding, Mr. J, when we come back. Good morning to you, Creole Admit for Mr. J.
Good morning, Wadix, and your esteemed honorable panel.
Good morning to you, sir.
I noticed, and a lot of us have noticed, that presently discovered Dominica, the Ministry of Tourism, would you accept the accusation that they have sidelined the foundation, the bass music, what started off the World Creole Music Festival, the Tadas Lipso music, our music anew, and they have now moved to the gangsters of Vibes Cartel because the culture has changed, or that they are only interested in hearing the cash register ringing. Would you agree that the cash register is all they are interested in today, and they have said, let the culture go to waste? Thank you, bro.
Thank you very much, call. Okay, hold your thought, Mr. G, and we will get back to the call and answer the callers. More calls, so Mr. G in the morning. Good morning to you, Creole Habit. But Mr. G,
good morning to you.
Good morning to you.
Good morning to you, Leroy Wadiko, Ambassador Charles, one of the best cultural ambassador Dominica I've ever seen. Mr. G, good morning. And
morning.
To have the Ghanaian young lady in studio.
Yes.
Mr. G, thanks for all your information you gave. And one thing from the inception that you spoke about is the trade show, and I remember that that trade show, and I always say what exciting that trade show that the World Creole Festival emanates from the trade show, because I can remember that trade show during the day, as you rightly said. You had all the different these products on display at night time. I can remember all these different cadence bands, going to coming together, and it's just one band after another. And I from Mao and every night there's come up and I had to be there, So I could remember that. But the impression I got from you, Mr. G, is that when that thing was that vision came through, they went to the government or whatever the case may be, and they just gave you the money, and they placed all confidence in you and they said, do whatever you have to do. But the question I want to ask you, and I don't mean to get into trouble or anything like that, the government or the people in charge at the time had any influence in how you conduct your business, how you choose your band, or how you selected the band, or what do you do? Or they just gave you the money that they had at the time until they go ahead and do whatever and place all the confidence in you and your team that you were going to do a great job. I'm going to stand and hang up and listen. Thank you very much, Mr. G, for your service, okay?
Okay, Mr. G, you could respond if you want to.
Yes, basically, as I said, the thing started with Timothy's and I talking Barbados. And then I came back and then we went through the process of brainstorming and prepared the paper. And then we went to cabinet, and the cabinet very enthusiastically, kudos to Mr. James, enthusiastically embraced the thing, and then they agreed, let's give us this money. And in fact, as I said earlier, I reported directly to Honorable Julius Timothy and to Honorable Norris Prevost, who was tourism minister. There was no PS between us. So no PS told us what to do. In fact, we just copied correspondence to the PSs, and then we worked directly with the cabinet. When Timothy gave us the money, we put it in our account, and then we used the money. And we use the expertise of people like Wadix and people like Eddie and people like Stevenson to put the thing together. we did not have any input from the government ministers or from PSs as to what bands you put on stage and whatnot. I mean, we had inputs from people like Gordon Henderson and so on. This is where you have to take the inputs from, not from PSCs and so on, because they are not in that business. So in fact, as I hope in fact for Marva's sake, I know she's quite capable, and I hope in fact she doesn't have that type of pressure on her, because it would not be good at all. It's best to just take the recommendations of people who are in the business. People like Wadix, for example. I think they should lean on people like Wadix to a very large extent, because he's so familiar with the music and he understands the ramifications of this thing. So I mean, he's a good resource person to lean on. But Wadix, let me just say to Marlin. Marlin may not remember, but Marlin was, I knew Marlin very, very well, good friends. Marlin was working in the post office, and I remember my young son, every time he came from the SMP, used to run straight home. He don't care about traffic. And Marlin came and wanted to say, talk to that boy. Tell him he must watch for the traffic when he's running from school. And then, you know, we Marlin probably might not even remember this, but we established something called the Olympic Sports Club. Right. I was the president, and Marlin and Medina and Alma, all these people were in the, we had all the different sports. We had basketball, we had cricket, we had soccer, we had volleyball, netball, everything in the Olympic Sports Club. Marlin, if she remember, maybe she might call back and then try to remember that we had this thing. But essentially, I did a lot of these things for fun, Wadix, and in fact, Peter called a while ago. Peter was one of my students at SMA.
You
Along
talking about SMA,
yes,
commerce.
yes. Peter and Paul were my students at the SMA when I taught there for a short while.
But then I was getting to the point that there was a concerted effort to get external funding to assist the subvention that the government was giving at the time. And we looked to the French, in particular, the regional council. How important was that move then?
Well, yeah, it was
And
very
possibly
important.
even look beyond within your vision, possibly privatization.
Yes, of course. I mean, we looked to the Francophonie. In fact, we had prepared a paper. I had this lady from Belgium who was a student, and we prepared a paper, a whole proposal in French, and we submitted it to the ministry. But nothing came out of it. But the idea was to pursue external funding for the festival to take it away from the responsibility of the government. And so we worked on that. And matter of fact, we started off with the French mission funding the symposiums for
Yeah.
the World Federation of Creole Culture. So it was getting our foot into the door. Um, but what I would say is this, that the whole vision of this thing, I don't know, it seemed to have changed now. But I mean, the whole idea was to, first of all, we call this thing the Dominica Festivals Commission. I noticed that they changed the name to the Festivals Committee. I mean, that is a letdown, in fact. I mean, because if you're going as the executive director, going out there and discussing with people at the regional level, you don't want to say that you're from a committee. You're from a commission, right? And so that was the whole idea, is to elevate the position of the people who are going to negotiate and to talk to about the festival and promote the festival. So really and truly, the plans we had was to also form later on the Dominica Festivals Corporation, to establish a Dominica Festivals Corporation, to privatize it, and then just let the government put a small subvention, because they were going to reap the benefits of the tourism arrivals and the departure taxes and so on, and they're going to make all their VAT from the hotels and whatnot and whatnot. And so, but the idea was to eventually privatize it and to take it out of the hands of the government.
We will look at the advantages of privatization in a while if we had gone that way. Let's take a call from Mr. G. Good morning to you, Creole Heartbeat.
Hello?
Hello, good morning, Creole Heartbeat.
Yes, this is Marlin again. Mr. G, you spoke about the Olympics You know, it's not everything I can remember, but you talk right. Olympics is Medina Johnson Detuch, Marlene Detuch, Francine Harris. You had Olive Branch, you had married to a Harris. You had Catherine Laron, Alex Laron. We had a lot of different people in the team. We had Mohawk, right? She was Gwyneth Jules, right? I played basketball, netball, volleyball, long tennis, ladies cricket, ladies football, rounders, all kind of sports. You understand? And there's so many others. They talk about the trade show, all these things. I know about and I was in it. Mr. Gregor, sit down, think, focus, and Dominicans. You did a lot to be my brother. You did a lot for your country, even more than the president and the prime minister. I tell them I can boast about it. Age is a number, and I can remember all what you do. In the Zaman tree, you had competition, dance competition. You had Claudette Toussaint. You had Mondi Philogent and others. Daybreak that used to take us in Zaman tree. That was the top and the best and all other things. The World Creole Festival, you have Minister of Tourism. She don't know nothing about the World Creole. Put in Wadix and Mr. G and others, which I call them the wise man, and all other people that was in the World Creole Festival. You had a young chap just come out in his mother womb. Mr. Piper, he knew nothing about this thing. Mr. Gregor, you serve your country. You serve your country. You give your life, your energy, your effort, every God beating for your country. And I telling you, take a bow and I tell you, nothing beat Q95. May you live and reign in the kingdom of heaven. You do everything. And Q95, if it wasn't for Q95, we would be bleeding, would be darkness, would be doom. Wadix, keep up the good works, Prince Charming. Wadix,
thank you very much, Madam.
all you, protect all you. Oh, Milado. So good.
Thank you very much, Marlon. But very interestingly, because we were on that pinnacle of possibly looking at privatization, Mr. G.
Right.
What would have been the advantages to privatize the WCMF, let's say, if, let's say, there was another term of the United Workers' Party?
Well, if you recall, Wadix, when we started off, remember that nobody knew about the thing because it was something new. And so the private sector had to show some confidence in us to come on board as sponsors because it was new. And so we had the original sponsors like Cardinal Airlines, Belfast Estate, HHV, Whitchurch and Company, Dominica Brewery, right, Koboli, Dominica Brewery and Beverages, Gohen Music, and later on American Airlines came on board and Koboli, WLIB, Cable and Wireless and so on came along. The idea was to really privatize this thing so that put it in hands of, let these people invest in it because they all benefit from it, right? Because, you can see Cable and Wireless, for example, benefit from all the calls that people make when they come in and so on. And Kubuli, because they sell a lot of stuff that the airlines benefit from the people traveling in, So basically, all these companies, they had a vested interest in this. And so I think we would have been able to persuade them to actually invest in it. And that way, they would have been able to recover their investment from it. And it would have saved the government having to put out all these millions of dollars from its coffers.
Another major innovation that you try to implement is to bring some major stars, mega stars from overseas. We were sort of a ticklish situation like we are in now. And you wanted to bring down some mentors. And I recall you having a serious conversation with me about people like Oprah and Michael Jordan to come down to talk to our youth. Give them the status as invited guests to our festival, but because they were black and they were influential, and basketball was a big thing at then. To come down and speak to our youth, to get them back on track. How was that particular vision? How you saw that vision?
Yeah, well, two things, Wadix. One of the things that we had in mind was the language. We felt that the Creole language was so critical to this whole Creole movement there that we were prepared to really get engaged with the schools and get
Yeah.
Creole language taught in the schools, right? So that was the first initiative. And to me, if that initiative had gone through, today we would probably have Creole being spoken in our parliament, just like they do in St. Lucia. Now, in terms of the bringing down figures, yes, we felt that it was important to have some people of influence come and provide some guidance for our youth. Because look, listen, Dominica is a small place, but it is part of a global situation, right? And so you find Dominicans are moving from Dominica and going all over the place to live. And so it is really a part of the global movement. And so there's no real reason why we could not bring people from locations where there was prosperity, from the success, and bring them in to discuss and to influence our young people on avenues for success and what they need to do to work hard and to pay their dues and to become successful. So we thought it would be very interesting to bring these people from outside to sort of try to influence some of these young people to make them understand there was things happening beyond the Dominica shores, and there were opportunities beyond the shores as well. And so if you were a young basketball player, there's no reason why you could not think of getting into the NBA, right? And so the whole idea was to try to bring people down who had influence to try to get to really to try to influence some of these young people there.
And also to bring the press would go back and evangelize Dominica as pristine and the destination marketing.
That's
In
correct.
yes, in terms, Mr. G, because when you look back at the 25 years or the 25 editions, you sit back, you are still part of the media, you own a radio station. How do you feel when you hear the lineups, when you look back at activities taking place, or if you cover some of the activities? How do you feel?
Well, first of all, I feel a personal vested interest in the success of the Creole Music Festival because we were there from the ground floor. We started it off. So I have a vested interest in seeing the success of the World Creole Music Festival. I also have a vested interest in seeing beyond the festival all the vision and the plans that we had. I still would like to see some of those things come to fruition. So when you look at things like the lineup, I mean, for a couple of years, the lineup was not very positive. This year, I think an effort was made, and it looks a little bit, there's an improvement this year. But I must say that yes, so the lineup this year is not too bad, but I think it's missing some things. It's still missing some of the Creole element, some of the Zouk music, and some of those for the French market. And I believe it's missing the calypso. I mean, you cannot tell me that you have people like Dice and Bob and all these top-notch calypsonians, and calypso is part of the whole Creole thing. I mean, all of these things came from calypso. And to me, it seems to me that it's not too late. An effort should be made to bring people like Dice and all these people on board in the festival. Put an hour together with Swinging Stars, and I'm pretty sure they have a massive following in any event that will bring a lot of people into the festival venue. So I believe that it's not too late.
Some of the founders or founding members of the WCMF, or the majority, are alive. How would you like, in your opinion, to be remembered as part of the pioneering process, taking this from a vision, from a thought, and now you see it has blossomed into a world class event? How would you like the pioneers to be remembered? At
Well,
least this year, as we celebrate our silver jubilee.
well, Dominica is not very good at recognizing people, right? I mean, um, I would like the pioneers to be recognized, but I don't think they've been recognized for quite a few years. I'm not sure that they're going to be recognized now. But I think it's never too late, as you say, to recognize the pioneers, the foundational members of the Creole Music Festival. I mean, we were there from the long floor when there was nothing, and we created something out of nothing. And I mean, I'm hearing now that the festival has a budget of what is it, $13 million?
Yes, that was said at the press conference, 13.4 million.
$13.4 million that the
Yeah.
government is looking to invest in. And then we started off with $250,000,
Yeah.
right? So, in fact, you know, it is good. It will be good for the people organizing now to come back and look at the original vision for the thing, to where it was supposed to go, to where it was supposed to look for its funding, how it was going to be structured, how it was going to embrace the rest of the Creole family worldwide, and how it was going to make Dominica the headquarters of the Creole headquarters of the world. I mean, is not nothing wrong with thinking big. I mean, we're a small island, but we're right in the middle of two European countries, right there in the middle of two European
Do you
countries.
believe we have been maximizing our location and even the support from those two islands, Martinique, Guadeloupe?
Well, no, we haven't been. We started off. We started off doing that, but I don't think we've maximized on that. In fact, there's transportation available now, readily available now. But again, we lost RFO, and I don't think that we are promoting the lineup. We have not been towards this markets, and it's unfortunate because I mean these markets are the key markets to the whole idea of the creolity of the festival.
We should be making a major stop for the news, Mr. G. But I really want to really tickle your memory, not even your memory, but to ask you definitely and boldly, if you were asked to come back to make a contribution to the World Creole Music Festival, would you agree?
Well, like I said, Wadix, I have a vested interest in the success of the Creole Festival. I would not be interested in.
Even before you go into that, have you ever been approached?
No, I've never been approached, and I don't expect to be approached.
Why?
Well, because I mean, of how many years now I've not been approached? Why should I be approached now?
Okay, and if you were approached, what would be your decision?
Well, I would be happy to provide some advice to the best of my ability. But I think that you have somebody now who is quite capable of running the festival. I think besides Wadix, I think Marva Williams is a good person to run the festival. I think I wish you would hook up with Wadix more closely to do this. But I think
we have been engaging in discussions.
well, that is very good. So I think it's in good hands. It will be left to just the powers that be to leave these good hands to take the decisions for the direction of the festival. And I think if I would ask, I would provide some advice as best I could.
What would you advise Marva now?
Marva,
Yeah.
I would advise her to disregard the permanent secretaries and to deal with the advice from people like Wadix on lineup and so on, and people like Gordon Henderson and so on. That is what she should do, because look back at the vision, because Wadix can talk to her about the vision. And so basically that is where she should go. I mean, and look at the real market, the ultimate market that we had planned for this, and it is a Creole market. And so she should not lose any focus about the French market, the importance of the French market. That is very, very critical to the success of the Creole Festival.
And QFM will all be confirming this year again as a partner for this year's WCMF 25th anniversary.
Yeah, well, we always partner. Whenever we are asked, we always partner. And so
Final words, Mr. G.
Well, it was nice reminiscing for a little bit on going back over the days when we started this thing. I mean, it was quite nice. It was quite an experience doing this from scratch. And let's not forget Eddie Toulon, who played a tremendous role in this, and people like Jeffrey Brisbane, who just passed. His funeral will be tomorrow at 12:30. I hope everybody will listen and watch that funeral. And of course, all the other people who were on board with us, let's not forget them.
Jamala Fountain, Cynthia
Right.
Ady at the office,
That's correct.
and some of the greats in terms of Creole music. Jeff Joe who died.
That's right.
People like Liquid Ices, Tony Valmont.
Tony Valmont.
Then we had Kassav, a staple in the World Creole Music Festival, Jacob de Vallier, and also Patrick Saint-Éloi, Jean Zenar, Oles Bailey, quite a bit of greats in terms of the Creole world, passing through Herman Noor of Tabu Combo. And we have something I believe that Dominica should be proud of. And I am truly happy to have the opportunity, sir. And I want to thank you for the opportunity that God has blessed me to learn from you, and you giving me the opportunity to understudy Edmund Tulor from the genesis of this World Creole Music Festival. So I want to publicly thank you for this opportunity, Mr. Gregoire. God bless you.
And you have been a good student, Warix. Bless you as well.
Thank you very much. This was another Creole Heartbeat program. And that's where we make way for the news major. The calls keep coming in, but we have to go now because the news major comes up next on the big station. Thank you very much, Mr. Sheridan Gregoire, the initial boss of the World Creole Music Festival. Prince Warix, may God bless you. May God bless Dominica.
Prince Warix, Prince Warix, Prince Warix, Prince Warix. Pa pou an wete ba moun plen la yo moj a kite la vi. Apresye sa yo ka fe kon yo a pa mi nou jodi. La se mouve ba revye non nou ka konsipe moun evi. Pour nous connaître, pour nous fait pour nous tout ça bénéfice. For only one that you done for us all, spreading the gospel all over.